Good evening, Judge Edwin Cameron, Chairman of the Old Boys Association, SGB members, Mr. Rila, and distinguished Old Boys. What an honor and privilege it is to be standing here as the first speaker as we celebrate 116 years of what was, is, and always will be Pretoria Boys High School, the place we all learn to live. My name is Geordie Collaros, and I have the privilege of being the head prefect for this year, 2017, for this great school. I'd like to start off by telling you a story about a rugby team who hadn't had the greatest season to date. The starting 15 lined up and ran to the home field, accompanied by the chanting of the school's war cries. It was freezing, and the boys were playing a team they had not beaten in their school's history. Despite the so far unsuccessful season and the glaringly obvious fact that they were playing a team they had never beaten, the stands were filled with over 500 of the school's boys, seated closely in order to stay warm. Just when the conditions couldn't get any worse, it started to pour with rain. 30 minutes in, the underdog side was 3-0 up, and all 500 odd boys were still standing on the stands despite the cold and the pouring rain. It was looking good until the lightning siren sounded and play was stopped immediately. 45 minutes, the players waited in the change rooms, anxious to for play to continue and not to be cancelled. The clearance siren sounded, and it was time for the second half. As the team walked out in single file toward the field, something amazing was taking place. All 500 boys had stayed throughout the lightning and the pouring rain. Drenched with the continuous downfall, they faced the oncoming team and proceeded with their war cries. The second half continued, and the team was 6-3 up, with the final play taking place on their 5-meter line. They set up their key player to run at the centre channels where myself and our inside centre prepared. He ran at the inside centre and was tackled, stopped dead in his tracks, which forced a knock-on. The tackler was concussed from the impact, but Pretoria Boys High School had beaten Westville for the first time in their school's history. He ran at the inside centre and was tackled, like I say, and one of my brothers had concussed himself in order for us to take away the first victory in the history of the school against Westville. It was at this point where myself and the 14 other players realised that it wasn't about the rugby, and it never was. It was about Boys Eye. It was about 500 boys supporting their school through a lightning storm in the freezing cold, and even when given the option to go home, they stayed. This is what we call the Boys Eye magic. The badge we wear on our blazers and ties shows no preference to accolade and achievement. It rather binds 100+ years worth of boys who have not only passed through these hallowed halls, but also become men whilst doing so. It's not a badge. It's a portal through time representing those who have passed, are passing, and will pass through this great school. Almost 5 years ago, I stood in awe as I laid eyes upon the main school buildings for the very first time. Greeted by 2 giant pine trees who stand strong and tall like guards of a priceless treasure, I knew this was the home of giants. It wasn't the knowledge of past sporting success, academic excellence, or cultural achievement that left my heart skipping beats. No, it was something much greater. Something I could not explain at the time, however, it's the reason that I stand here today. On my very first day of Form 1, I was lucky enough to be confronted face to face with a prefect who I believe to be the definition of fear. We were quite convinced that he was a convicted murderer of Form 1s, and there I was next on his list. However, what he said proved to be some of the most profound conversation I'd ever been a part of in my life. He asked me how many bricks there were in the main school building, and as you can imagine, I had absolutely no idea. What he said next laid the foundation to my 5 years here at this school. He said there are enough teachers in the school to be doing well with our work, and there are enough blades of grass and brooks to beat Affies. But most importantly, there are enough bricks in the school building to be the greatest school in the world. I've spent around 3/4 of the last 5 years with these 4 fences which surround the gem of a place that we call Boys Eye. 28,800 hours to be exact. I've spent more time here than in my own house in Johannesburg, and for that being for the last half decade. For the better part of these 5 years, Boys Eye has become my home away from home. To sum up this, I've written a poem, and I'd like to conclude with this. In my time here, I've shed tears of joy and happiness too. I've won some fixtures, but lost a few. I've broken bones, and on brooks I've bled. This represents our flag's colour red. I've made no friends, which goes and shows how I've only made brothers, the family I chose. I've learnt that when I fall I must get up and fight. This represents our flag's colour white. I've had successes and failures as well. My time here at Boys Eye approaches a final bell. Virtue et labora I have seen. This represents our flag's colour green. The home of giants, the school on the hill. It's just a school, so what's the big deal? 116 years of school, a home. Never will you ever have to walk alone. Welcome to the red, the white, and the green. The Boys Eye giants, the Boys Eye machine. How many bricks in the main building? I was told. Enough to be the greatest school in the world. Thank you.